All right. There are many ways to potentially run into problems and, hopefully not die in a helicopter. And so it's probably a good idea to learn some emergency procedures so you know what to do if any of the bad things happen, right? Makes sense. One of my favorites is actually called an autorotation. And so picture this. We go up one day, we get up to, reasonable altitude, nothing too crazy, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, whatever it is. And then my instructor's like, okay, we're gonna turn off the engine. I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Because I looked outside just a second ago after you said that, and nobody attached wings to this thing before we took off. So maybe we should discuss this, because in my mind, you turn off the engine of a helicopter to simulate failure, and the thing is gonna drop out of the sky like a bag of hammers. Now, you would think that with all the love I had for helicopters, and also the fact that we had just spent, several classes and hours discussing this exact procedure, that I would have been mentally ready for this, and I would have known what was going to happen, and all of these things would not have flown into my mind. But I'm telling you, the experience of getting up there and having him say, we're gonna turn off the engine, my heart skipped a beat, right? Because I just all that stuff is in my mind. So in case you were wondering about the whole turning off the engine of a helicopter, dropping out of the sky like a bag of hammers, it's kind of not that far off. But I have been told that we are going to glide down. Now, I wanna frame out what this glide really is, okay? What's really going to happen is the engine's gonna get cut off, and then the helicopter is gonna start dropping out of the sky like a bag of hammers, okay? I'm not that far off. The weight and speed of this helicopter flying and plummeting down towards the earth is gonna be so fast that all that air rushing by as you're screaming, that's gonna be enough air combined with your screams to turn the blades, because you're falling super fast. Just like if you take one of those pinwheel fans and run with it, the blades start spinning. Same thing with the helicopter, except it's powered by your screams as you're plummeting towards the earth. And so what happens is, as you're falling, all of that air that's rushing through the blades, what you're going to do is you're going to capture all of that to keep the blades spinning. Now this is where it gets tricky, right? Because it'd be one thing if we're just going to keep the blades spinning, which is good because we need the blades. The blades are actually an airfoil, all right? But it's not just as simple as plummet to the earth, screaming your head off, and then use all the energy from the blades. So as the blades start spinning, what can happen is they can spin too fast. Well, what happens when the blade spins too fast? They fly off the helicopter. If the blades are not attached to the helicopter, you die, okay? Not a good thing. So one thing you need to do is make sure the blades don't spin too fast. So you control this very comfortably using the collective and the angle of attack to keep it in check, to make sure you stay in the top area of the green zone. There's a green zone, nice pretty green zone that you get to monitor as you're plummeting and screaming towards your death. Now, there's a flip side to this battle of energy. There's a dark side to it too. If you slow the blades down too much, you can enter into basically an irrecoverable nosedive and also plummet to your death. So what happens in that case? Well, in that case, you basically slow the blades down too much. You end up in a blade stall effectively. There is no more lift in the blades, and then what happens? The heaviest part of the helicopter goes like that. So now the helicopter's nose down, going even faster, you're screaming even louder, and there's no way to get lift back, because at this point the blades are no longer, the air is rushing past the blades instead of through the blades. So you don't want to go to the dark side either. So as you're plummeting towards the ground like a bag of hammers, you are balancing the energy, not too fast, but not too slow, stay in the green, and everything's good. And then what happens is, oh, and there's a really nice loud buzzer that lets you know when you mess this up, just to help you with your chi as you're flying to the ground. And so as you get all this balance and you get down to the ground, and just before imminent total destruction, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take all that work you did, conserving all that energy, and at the very last minute, at just the right height, start to use all of that energy to come in for what I'm calling a swoop landing. And so as you come screaming in at the last minute, you're basically gonna take all that and your helicopter is gonna come swooping along, and at the last bit, it's gonna lift up, and then as it drops down, you're gonna take the last bit of energy to set it down perfectly softly. Not at all like a bag of hammers, and not at all like a plummet to your death. And if you successfully do all of that, you will have survived an engine failure. Now, the reason that you definitely know it's not that far from the truth is the way the emergency procedure test goes as part of the check ride with the FAA. And so now we get to, the difference between a check ride in a helicopter versus a check ride for a fixed wing aircraft, right? At some point in your check ride, the FAA inspector is going to randomly simulate an engine failure, all right? In a plane, they're gonna sit back, they're gonna take a sip of their coffee or their tea, they're gonna look at you, they're gonna say, well, now what are you gonna do? I think we should probably do something. In a helicopter, when they cut that engine, if you don't react within seconds, slam that collective down, and the reason you slam the collective down is so that the blades don't stall. It is basically, if you don't slam that down within seconds and you don't beat that buzzer, you will instantly fail that check ride right there on the spot. There is no sipping of tea. They're not wondering how you're doing today. It's simply put, like, you get that collective down, those blades don't stall, we all make it out alive, and that's it. And so, as much as my over dramatization of how this goes was explained, that's actually not super far from the truth, and you can see it in the way it's reflected in the FAA check ride. Now, all that being said, this was actually one of my favorite parts of learning to fly helicopters, was practicing this emergency procedure. There's something about it that has a little bit of that roller coaster ride to it, depending on how you enter. If you're super smooth, it's basically just wind. The helicopter engine goes off, and you get this glide, and you just hear the wind rushing past. It's a really cool feeling. And obviously by the time you've done enough of these where you feel pretty comfortable with it. I've done full down autos, and it's pretty cool the way a helicopter works. And it's really funny that somehow, despite all of my love for helicopters and all of the classes that I literally just sat through about this emergency procedure, when he looked at me and he said, hey, we're gonna cut the engine, I went, hold up now, wait a minute, can we discuss this? So anyways, that's how an auto rotation works for a helicopter. Thanks for checking it out.